Welcome to Had to Be There, the podcast that allows you to explore the world's greatest destinations through the stories of those who have been there. Here to ignite the wanderlust within, your host and favorite travel planner, Kelly Acevedo.
And 7 years ago, something somewhere was going on. But today, I'm here to welcome you back to the Had to Be There podcast. I'm your host, Kelly, and this is episode 74. In today's episode, that lame Abraham Lincoln joke that I just told is going to make a lot more sense because we are going to be chatting with my new friend, Cheryl, about a trip that she took to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Cheryl's going to talk a lot about visiting historical places and learning the stories behind them. So all my history buffs out there are going to love it. But as promised last week, I do have some news for you. I'll keep it short to kind of ease us back into the swing of things. I did finally get a replacement charger for my computer, so we're back in the game. So let's jump into this week's weekly roundup.
Okay. So much news from the world, so hey, put your sound up. You know what? I think it's time for a weekly roundup.
That's right. We are back to talk about the biggest news and travel promos from Disney and beyond. I have some Disney 100 news that I wanted to just touch on quickly. As my Disney fans will know, we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. The Disneyland Resort is having a huge Disney 100 celebration this year, but Disney World is not missing out on this action. So coming this fall, I believe they said September, mid to late September, Epcot is going to be joining the festivities with their own Disney 100 celebration. So that means that guests visiting will be able to take a picture with one of these fancy, sparkly new Disney 100 backdrops with, of course, the iconic Spaceship Earth behind them. All four parks are going to have their own platinum Mickey Mouse sculpture to take photographs with. The one in Disney Springs, when I was there, was up and I was able to take a picture with that. Very exciting. Of course, there's going to be Disney 100 magic shots and PhotoPass offerings all across Walt Disney World. I believe those are available right now. And they're going to be revealing an all-new mural at the heart of World Celebration, where you can see how many of the 100 Disney characters are hidden within the incredible scene. This expansive mural is located along the walkway to World Showcase and will feature some of your favorite characters hidden throughout various neighborhoods of Epcot. The rest of World Celebration will also be decked out in Disney 100 platinum banners and decor. And of course, Mickey and Minnie will be there in their Disney 100 outfits. And because it's Epcot, you know there's going to be food. There's going to be lots of new Disney 100 limited time food and beverage locations at Food and Wine Festival. You're definitely going to want to go and sample all of the new yummy treats that they've cooked up for you. And what would a celebration be without a new popcorn bucket? That's right. A purple metallic Mickey Balloon premium popcorn bucket will be available only at Epcot during Disney 100. So please don't miss out on that. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to eBay where they're going to be selling them for hundreds of dollars. In other news, 2 quick cruise promos that are happening right now through the end of July. Royal Caribbean is offering up to $500 off flights to Europe. So if you book by July 31st for sailings between August and the end of October, you can take advantage of this offer for Europe Air. It's $200 per person for economy and premium economy class seats, or $500 per person for first and business class seat airfares on Europe itinerary sailings. So if you're not sure or you've been on the fence about it, but airfare is so crazy lately, this should help lighten the burden a little bit. Don't forget, this month they're also offering 30% off every guest on Royal Caribbean. So that's if you book by the end of July and you travel between August 1st and April 30th of 2025. So again, that's all guests, 30% off. Oh, and did I mention kids sail free? So if you would like a quote to start planning a Royal Caribbean cruise, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you get started. And finally, for today, Norwegian Cruise Line is stepping up their game with 70% off your second guest for a limited time only. Plus Norwegian's free at sea offers, which includes free unlimited open bar, free specialty dining, free excursion credits, and more. So again, you have until July 31st to take advantage of the 70% off second guest and Norwegian's free at sea offer. Please get in touch with me if you would like to start planning that trip. So that's all from me for this week. I hope that something that we talked about today has got you excited. When you're ready to start talking and planning, you can find me anytime at hadtobethere.net/vacations. And I would be happy to start walking you through the process. I will be back next and every week with more travel news and promos right here on the Weekly Roundup. In 1863, a nation torn apart faced its defining moment. Brother fought brother, and destiny loomed large. Amidst the rolling hills, courage clashed with conviction, shaping history in blood and sacrifice. For 3 relentless days, the fields wept, witnessing valor and tragedy that would forever be etched into memory. This was no ordinary town. This was the turning point, the crucible of a young republic's fate. And now we stand on hallowed ground where heroes were forged. This is Gettysburg. Cheryl, welcome to the Had to Be There podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Before we jump in, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little about you?
Well, since we're going to be talking travel today, I'll guess I'll go way back in my history. When I was about 20, I got hired as a flight attendant. I love to travel. And my other passion has always been history. And then my life took a very long detour, but, somewhat related. I did instructional design, creating training programs, mostly for corporate America, and some academic. But now I'm quasi-retired and have been putting together historical tours to help educate people.
Oh, I love that. So, growing up, did you get to travel much as a kid?
Well, first of all, let me preface this by saying I'm not military, but yes, I've moved 42 times in my life.
Oh my
But
goodness.
sometimes just across the street. So, um, and I was born in Wyoming and we moved to Alaska when I was about 7 or 8. Then we
Wow.
moved back down to Arizona and then to Wyoming. And then, so we traveled a lot. We flew a lot when we were coming to and from Alaska, but we took advantage of all of the wonderful things to see in Alaska. So we, drove around as a family and traveled a lot while we were up there, in addition to, my other travels, I guess you'd say.
Wow, that's amazing.
hmm
Can you pinpoint any specific time or trip where you can identify, like, this is when I caught the travel bug and this is when I knew I wanted to see other places and experience, other things?
Well, I think Alaska definitely was kind of the trigger. Prior to that, I'd grown up in Wyoming in a small town. I was related to everybody in town. I had all my friends were there. My whole world revolved around Wyoming. And moving to Alaska was a real, culture shock as well as just a shock to my
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
But I remember when we caught our first flight up to, into Anchorage and then into Kenai. This is going to sound crazy, but, the flight attendants were so nice and they just were like, oh, and, it was a long flight and it was boring and it was, they're always red eyes. So here I was at 7 years old. They're like, oh, do you want to get up and help us pick up trash? I was like, at 7 years old, I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds great.
I would
You
love
know?
nothing more.
And so I thought I was a flight attendant at age 7, and that kind of triggered things. And the other thing was, we didn't have all the sources of entertainment back then. All we had was a headset that you plugged into the, armrest, and you could hear all kinds of different radio stations from around the world speaking all different languages, and that kind of fascinated me. I was like, oh, I don't understand a word you're saying, but that sounds very interesting.
Oh,
And it
I
was fun to
love
just kind
that.
of guess, what language is this?
Yeah. That's actually kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, it was fun.
So you grew up kind of in the western area of the States, but where are you taking us today?
Well, probably the most profound experience I had. Like I said, I certainly loved, all of the scenery and all of the beautiful things that we got to do when I was in Alaska. And it was steeped in, Alaskan culture. And I loved Alaskan history. That was kind of one of my favorite subjects up there. We got to eat whale blubber, all that exciting stuff.
Wow.
And I remember I did a whole research paper when you're in 5th grade, if you can do a real research paper on glacier water, and learned how much different glacier water was than, other things. So, I've always just had a passion for learning about cultures and my environment and all that. But when I was about 14 and we had moved back to Wyoming at this point, my aunt and uncle lived in Arizona and they were going on a American history tour back east. And so they invited me along and I was like, okay, that sounds cool. I always like to go somewhere. Like my grandma said, you have my suitcase packed before anybody even says go, And so because I traveled so much, I knew how to read a map. So lucky me, because there was, I think, 10 of us in a station wagon going back. Yeah, we didn't have minivans and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I always got to sit in the front seat because I was the only one that could read a map and I got to
Oh, how
navigate.
funny. You were the little
So,
GPS.
yes. And so everybody's kind of jealous of me. But as we went back and started traveling, and visiting historical sites, I just remember like feeling the presence of the people that were there, that we were visiting. And we went to, I think we were in Gettysburg or up somewhere around that area. And there was an old hospital, which really was nothing more at that point in time than a very small 1-room building, that old dilapidated building, but you could still see the blood on the floor. And there was a nurse, a woman dressed up, I should say, as a nurse, that was there telling stories about what had happened, in that general area, and something about, hospital life during the Gettysburg, battle and that kind of thing. And I just remember just feeling this strong connection. And then we went, there's an eternal flame in Gettysburg. And we went there and I was like, wow, I just feel really connected to these people. And I don't think it's there anymore. I was up in Gettysburg just like 2 years ago, but I think they moved it. There was this map and everybody sat up in the balcony kind of area, and you looked down in this area, and there was it was lights. So you would see, okay, here's where, the Union Army was, here's where the Confederate Army was, and how the battle played out, and things would light up and stuff. And oddly enough, I was 14 years old. I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And then we went to, Arlington Cemetery and Mount Vernon, and I just felt this really strong connection. And then I went back home, and I was a freshman in high school, and we were required to take, civics. I don't know what it was called back then. Right. Political science. I don't know, something. Anyway. And I remember I had a teacher who, this was in the not early 70s, late 70s. It was 1976, because I remember it was the bicentennial year.
Yeah.
So we went to Philadelphia, all that cool stuff, But he had a totally different take on history than I did. This is kind of when we started down this road of our founding fathers weren't everything they were portrayed to be. They were these evil slave owners and all these terrible things. And I was like, whoa, that's not what I learned, kind of thing. But to his credit, this is something that I feel is really different then than today. I was like, no, I was just back there. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been to these places? How can you say this? Look what I learned. And he was like, and I'm surprised at 14, I was willing to push back on my teacher. He goes, okay. He goes, I'll give you a challenge. If you can support your ideas and your opinions with facts, then, we can have a conversation. And so we did. And, he taught me how to do research. He didn't just say, go off on your own, and I hope you figure it out kind of thing. He really believed in teaching people to think critically, and even if it meant disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
And then my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was his aide because I got straight A's when I was a freshman, and I really liked the topic, and I really liked him, even though we totally disagreed politically on everything. But I wasn't just an aide to grade papers and that kind of thing. He made me do research papers the whole time I was in high school.
Wow.
And so now I live in Virginia, and I continue to go to, additional places. Harper's Ferry is another one of my very, very, very favorite ones. And, I still continue to feel the spirit of the people that were there.
Yeah.
And thus, that's kind of triggered these historical tours that I've started, doing, and hoping other people will feel that. I don't want them just to go around and say, oh, this is cute, this is nice, this is wonderful. I want them to really experience and hear the stories and hear I also do, what are they called? They're not ghost tours, but I volunteer for the, down in Charlottesville, the Albemarle Historical Society. And we do a tour at a cemetery, and we just tell, stories about the people that are buried there. Yeah. And,
kind of like a ghost tour.
Well, it's funny because it's rarely done at night, and it's not, it's not like, I've been to I love ghost tours, by the way. I've been to Williamsburg, Gettysburg, Harper's Ferry. They all have ghost tours. And it's kind of like, oh, can't you see that, apparition or whatever up in the window? I'm like, no. But, I can still feel it. I love the stories. Yeah. I love learning about people. I love, when I went to Jamestown and Williamsburg and places like that, am deeply engrossed by stories about people. And then when I'm at a place where they lived, I'm not psychic or anything. I'm nothing like that. But, you just feel a connection. There's something there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I grew up in New England, so there's
Oh,
a
okay.
lot of history here. And I think that sometimes we take that for granted because it's just kind of something that we grew up with. And,
Yeah.
but this past year, my husband and I went to Philadelphia just like on a whim overnight. And we did a ghost tour, and like they have like the same amount of history as we do, but it was so fascinating. And I really did feel that like connection. Like, wait, this is where they signed the Declaration of Independence. It was
Yeah.
very, very cool. I love that you're doing this because it's so
It gives
fun.
me chills when you tell me, and I've been there and I've done that. And, I've been up to Salem, and the witch trials and everything. And
Yeah.
I just shake. It's funny because I shake my head and I go, oh my gosh, how could they possibly have done this? But then I look at some of the things going on in our world today, even in our own country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're not that different. We like to think that we're so much better and that we've progressed and moved on from that kind of stuff. No, we just do it in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I agree.
Unfortunately. But that to me is kind of like, let's learn the lessons of history. It's so cliche to say, oh, yeah, learn about history so you don't repeat it. We learn about history and we still repeat it.
Yeah, that's true. It's so true. So why do you think that people should add experiences like this to their travel bucket lists?
Well, one thing, I've had people ask me, if they're moving, because I've moved so many times in my life, and they have like middle school kids or high school kids, and they're like, oh, I can't move because, it's so traumatic on my kids. And I'm like, yeah, I will admit, moving to Alaska was extraordinarily traumatic. And then once I lived there for 5 years and I just absolutely loved it and adored it, my whole world revolved around Alaska. Then I had to move back to, down to the States, to Arizona. And that was traumatic for me,
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not traumatic, but as I look back as an adult, I'm like, wow, I think I have a very broad perspective. And I really understand being a flight attendant. I didn't fly international too much when I was a flight attendant. But I don't like to just go visit places and sightsee. I like to learn about the cultures. And when I lived in these places, I would learn about the culture. And my husband read a book, and I also, so he recommended that I read it, and I can't remember. But it broke the United States up into like 13 different sections. And it talked about how each of the different, if you were Irish, if you were English, and how different parts of the country were settled by different, people that migrated over here.
Right.
When they migrated over here, they, it's interesting how, like we all go down to, New Orleans and stuff, and you'll see the French Quarter. Hold on just a second. She just let my dog in. Sorry. The French Quarter still has the French, influence.
Yeah.
New England, New England's classic. And when we lived in Alaska, oh my gosh, there was people from all over the place, but there was a really strong Japanese influence for some reason. I'm not sure why. But I learned when I was when I was probably 9 or 10, I learned Japanese ballet.
Wow.
And I think your perspective, I think I've become so much more, and I don't even want to say tolerant because that's not the right word, or even respectful of other cultures. I just appreciate them. And I think, wow, what if we all lived in a world where we were all alike?
The Had to Be There podcast is brought to you by Vacations by Kelly, where your host becomes your travel agent. As a proud affiliate of Academy Travel, Kelly specializes in Disney destinations and can help with all non-Disney excursions worldwide as well. When you book with Kelly, you're getting much more than a travel agent. You're getting a personalized concierge-level travel partner. And the best part? Her services are completely free. It's true. So when you're ready to make your next travel dream a reality, Vacations by Kelly is ready to make it happen. Visit hadtobethere.net/vacations to get started.
I have a whole podcast of my own, and it's all on history. And I was down in Miami a month ago, and I came across this guy who was from Pakistan. And I was just talking to him, and he was really talking about all the history, in that area. And I've never been to that area. And all I know about it, to be honest, is what I read in the news, and it's not always good.
Sure.
And I was like, he was telling me all of this information and history. And I was like, oh, I want to have you on my podcast. And now I want to go to Pakistan,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. But I don't want to just go and sightsee. I want to meet the people. I want to get to know their culture.
Yeah.
And another interesting, I could just talk forever, as you can tell, is I went up to Norway. I took all my kids and we went on a cruise, and it really wasn't a cruise. What it was a boat that went up the coast of Norway, right?
Okay, yeah.
And the purpose behind that was the boat, which really was designed to be nothing more than like a floating hotel. It's where we slept and where we ate, and then, in between stops, we'd do things on the boat, but it wasn't like a Carnival cruise or anything like that.
Right.
And my kid, and the purpose behind that was so every stop we could get off, and not everybody wanted to see the same things. So they could all kind of go their own way, do their own things, and then come back to the boat, and we could share our experiences if we didn't all get to go to the same places or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing I found interesting is I have a really strong English background, but I also know I have quite a few relatives from Sweden and Scandinavia.
Oh, wow.
And my kids all said the same thing when we were there. It's like, wow. We were reading this book all about Scandinavian culture, and it's like, that's us. That's us. And it was talking about Scandinavian humor, and we were like, that's us. So, as I'm saying, even though, we as the United States have become this melting pot, the Scandinavians, they kind of settled up around in, Minnesota and Wisconsin and that area and Michigan. Those influences are still there.
Yeah.
And I think it's so neat to really immerse yourself in other cultures, because I think it makes us so much more interesting. But I don't have to agree with you or think like you to want to connect with you.
Yeah.
And I mean connect on a certain level.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cheryl, would you like to play Passport Picks?
Sure.
Tell us your favorite from all your trips. It's time to play Passport Picks. Passport Picks.
All right. So, for starters, do you have any kind of running tally as to how many places you visited, how many states you've been to, how many countries?
I haven't internationally. I will admit I was a little bit limited, but in the United States, I've hit every state in the United States.
Wow. That's very impressive.
Yes.
And even the Dakotas?
Well, this is interesting. It's only been in the last couple of years that I've been to the Dakotas, because we live in Virginia, but my family still all lives out in Wyoming and, out in the West. So we would go drive across country numerous times. And every time my husband's like, let's take a different route, and we went down clear, to the south and, through Texas and up through New Mexico and then, up that way. And then another time we went north. Well, and this was fun. My parents came out and we wanted, I've never been able to do an RV trip except once in Alaska. We did an RV trip, but I wanted to do an RV trip, but I was like, I'm not sure I want to buy an RV. I don't want to invest. And they were so expensive to buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we bought a used RV, and my husband fixed it up a little bit. My parents came out and our intention was to buy it and then sell it when we got to the other end. We thought, can't be any more expensive than renting RVs. Renting RVs is crazy.
Sure.
So we went up through, my parents wanted to go through Niagara Falls and then across, up through Canada. And then when we came down through the Dakotas and into South Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and went and saw Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse and all of those kind of things. And I love the Great Lakes. I don't know why. I just have this passion for Great Lakes. But as we came down and got back to Wyoming, we sold it and we actually made money. I was like, wow.
Hey.
And we made enough money to cover the cost of our trip. I was like,
wow,
this is amazing. Not sure I'd do that again, but it was, it was fun. So yeah, I've hit, every state at least once,
cool.
Numerous times. But in terms of international, Spain, I love Spain. So that's another one. I love everything. I love castles. I've been to England. I've been to Italy. I've been to Rome. And I want to do, my bucket list is a Mediterranean cruise.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because there's so much history. I love history. And so I want to do the same thing I did with Norway. I don't want to go on a cruise. It's a boat that will take me around the Mediterranean and we can get off and go visit all these different
like
things.
a river cruise.
Yeah, I love river cruise.
Yeah. So how do you choose between traveling for these educational experiences and just vacationing for leisure? Like, do you feel like you have to choose between the two?
Oh, no. So much of it depends on, kind of where I'm at. Like with my kids, I knew it had to be more, I wouldn't say more entertainment central, but we went and had this Viking dinner and everybody was dressed up like Vikings and it's funny. My son, we braided his hair and we dressed everybody up like Vikings. And then we went through I was amazed. They were really impressed with, the museums and things like that. So that one was meant to be more entertainment because I thought, with my kids, and my kids were adults, they weren't young.
Right.
But they got into it. They were like, oh, we want to go visit this huge cathedral and learn all about it and kind of thing. Wow. And, but one time my husband and I both really wanted to go to Switzerland. And so, and I was really impressed. I don't know if you've ever dealt with Sikasso. I highly, highly, highly recommend them. You can go anywhere in the world and you reach out to Sikasso, even though I'm a travel agent. they do a much better job at this than I do. And we just told them, we said, these are we want to do chocolate. We have to do a chocolate. We want to go on a chocolate tour or whatever. Mm-hmm. I want to visit castles. We wanted to go to a wine. There was a place to learn about winemaking or whatever. And we wanted to go, we're not used to ski and all that kind of stuff. We went in the wintertime. We always like to go in the wintertime because we love snow. So we went on a sledding. This is something when we went to a ski resort and we took the tram up to the top, but we took our sled with us and then we just sledded down,
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And they literally planned every step. When I say every step, I'm not joking. It was like, okay, you're going to land at this airport. You're going to go pick up this shuttle. You're going to, once you get there, you're going to, go 2 blocks and you're going to turn left and you're going to go right. And that's where your hotel is. And you're going to stay in this hotel. And when I walked in, I didn't I just walked up to the front desk. My name's Cheryl Johnson. Oh, yes, here's your key. Up you go. And
wow.
It's like, okay, now you're going to catch the train. And you know how efficient the trains are over there. You're going to catch the 9:13 train and you're going to go such and such and you're going to get off. It's just, and my husband, he usually is really independent and likes to he's like, I like to drive. I like to be in control kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm like, no, this is my Switzerland trip. So we're going to do it my way this time.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. And afterwards he's like, oh my gosh, it was so relaxing because everything And like we were late to our chocolate tour, and they were like, "Oh, no big deal. Just come on when you can." And then we were going to some little, I can't even name it, the little community. And some guy was going to do a tour with just us around town and, explain all the history of whatever. And we were a few minutes late there, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry. No big deal." I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice."
That is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So you touched on this earlier a little bit, but I'm wondering if you could tell me a little more about your favorite ways to immerse yourself in new cultures.
Well, that all depends. Like I said, with Switzerland, I don't feel like, I don't feel like I immersed myself in their culture because they have a French, a German, and a Swiss, and an Italian sector.
Wow.
So Switzerland's kind of a melting pot kind of thing. And we didn't we really stayed down in the south, eastern part of Switzerland. So I didn't feel like we really got to, experience the whole Swiss culture thing like I would like to have. But I feel like we covered so much territory there. And that was like, we just want to go on a relaxing tour.
Yeah.
And like Norway was kind of, kids entertainment kind of thing. We went on a dog sled ride, and I've done dog sleds in Alaska when I was little, but I don't remember this.
Sure.
Being behind a sled full of dog, on a sled with dogs, they poop all the way. They just keep running while they're pooping. I'm like, oh, this smells horrible. This is terrible.
No.
It was fun. I mean, it was definitely an experience. That's what real dog sledding is like.
Yeah, you're right. I love it.
Well, and then one time my daughter was like, "Let's go to Rome." And I'm like, "Rome?" I just had no interest in Rome whatsoever. She's like, "Mom, just come to Rome."
That's interesting, given how much you like history.
I know. This is crazy. So I was like, whatever. And so we went over to Rome, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like one of my most favorite places. And I could have spent so much time there. I was like, we only spent 3 or 4 days there. I was like, this isn't near enough. I have got to come back and spend a month here.
Yeah.
And then I watched, I love, what are they called? Fiction, historical fiction. That's what they're called.
Mm.
And I was learning all about the Medici family. And, she was a regent in France, but somehow she ended up down. And I was like, I mean, I knew this on some level that all of our art, Michelangelo, all those guys, Donatello, all of them were from that area, but it didn't register until I was going through this, historical series on Netflix or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I want to go all through northern Italy and I want to see all of these things. And I'm not an art person. I don't know how I pick. Like this is my biggest regret, if you want to, I can call it a regret, was right before COVID, we had booked a cruise to Svalbard, which is north of Norway.
Yeah.
It's in the Arctic Circle. It's not in the Arctic Circle. It's in the Arctic, right? And I want to go. I mean, I'd seen dead polar bears in Alaska, but I wanted to see live polar bears.
Sure.
So, told you we like winter. So my husband and I had booked a cruise, and then COVID hit. And it totally, cruises got hit the worst, boats.
Yeah.
And so we ended up not being able to go, and that's still on my list. So
one of these days.
One of these days, yes.
Do you have a favorite destination that you visited? And what stands out about this particular one?
Well, when I was 14, when I went on that tour, that's the one that really I feel like, impacted me the most. But in terms of, like, I love the Great Lakes. I loved Switzerland. My husband wants to go back and see, the Italian and the French Alps. And I'm like, the Alps are the Alps. We went to, on our honeymoon, we went up to Lake Louise in Banff in Canada.
Yeah.
And if you know my husband, he's like, oh, we were supposed to stay there. But he's like, oh, let's go up to, what's it called? up north. Starts with a G, I think. Why can't I think? Oh, it's not even a G. Edmonton. He wanted to go to Edmonton. I know. It's been a long time. And I was like, okay. And we thought, oh, it'll be a couple hours. No, it was 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
But we drove right up, the base of the Canadian Rockies. Just all 6 hours was right up the base of the Canadian Rockies. It was so drop dead gorgeous.
Wow.
I grew up in the Rockies. So, I love the Rock. I mean, I always thought, now this is another one. See, I could go on forever. We could just talk forever and ever. But, I grew up in Wyoming. I will admit, Virginia, Wyoming, I think they're at a tie for where I've lived the longest, spent, big chunks of time. And Wyoming was my home, grew up there. My family's there. I go back there for, family reunions, all that kind of thing. And up around Jackson Hole, our uncle has this hunting cabin, right? Well, two things. Number one, my husband really wanted to see the solar eclipse, and it passed right through Jackson Hole. I should say it passed right past our cabin. It was 99% right at our cabin.
Wow.
And even before, we knew, that you're going to get 99% here, 100% there. My husband's like, we're going where there's 100%. Well, my whole family stays at the cabin. They're like, no, we're fine with 99%. And so my husband and I went it was only like an hour farther north. And we got there and it was like, oh my gosh. Have you ever been to a solar eclipse?
I have like a vague memory of being a kid, and in school there was one and they took us all outside and
you wore the glasses.
Yeah. But it was so long ago.
You have, if it's anywhere near anywhere you're going to be or where you are, once again, I was like, oh, this is whatever, you get to see the sun move. I was like,
yeah, right.
I was like, whatever. My husband's really into it, so I'll go with him. I was content to stay with my family at the cabin for 99%. But when we got there and, you watch it happening, when it was at 99%, it was cool. But when it hit 100%, it moved beyond cool.
Wow.
It was amazing. We were in this field and there was all of these cows and everything. And at 99%, they were just like, just cows eating their grass, doing their own thing. As soon as it hit 100%, the cows were like mooing and it got, it probably dropped 20 degrees.
I believe it.
Not kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And it was just like, you can't, it's one of those things, you had to be there.
Yeah, right.
I can't explain it. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
Then my husband decided, he likes to take the road less traveled or, off the beaten path. And so we had 4-wheel drive and we went on all these back roads that they weren't even roads. They were trails. You should have been on a 4-wheeler or something.
Wow.
But we got way, 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 way up to the top of some place. I don't even know where it was. But I remember it was so cool because you could look and there were 5 different mountain ranges. And I can't remember the names of all of them, but there was Snowy Range, there was the Wyoming Range, the Wind River Range, and the Grand Tetons. And there was one other one. I never remember the other one. And you could see all 5 mountain ranges. And they weren't all like in one area. They were like all around you.
Wow.
And you could see all of these mountain ranges. And then if you looked off in the distance over here, you could see all these Indian reservations, And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so, I felt like I was standing on top of the world.
Wow.
And I had seen, I had seen the Grand Tetons so many times, in my life. But as we were coming down, we went around this road and then we came down. And it was like the Grand Tetons were right in front of us. And it was like, I've never seen them from this angle, Yeah. I'm like, I've lived in Wyoming my whole life, practically. I would not my whole life, but, a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced this.
Wow. Amazing. Completely different perspective.
Yeah. See, everything is all about perspective. It's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you
I
can't
love
explain
that.
it. You just have to, I mean, you feel like when we were in Switzerland, we took this, tram or whatever up to what they called the top of the world. And it really was gorgeous. I mean, I can't dispute the fact that it was gorgeous, but I didn't feel like I was standing on top of the world. I felt like I was standing on top of a mountain looking at beautiful, beautiful mountain ranges.
Sure.
But this one made me feel like I was standing on top of the world.
Mm.
Because there were so many, each of these mountain ranges kind of are unique in their, whatever. So I was like, oh, wow. Anyway, you probably have more questions for me. I could talk forever.
Amazing. So, the only other thing that I want to hear about is these historical tours that you're working on and your podcast and what else you have cooking.
Well, I'm just getting started. I will admit, I'm just getting started with the historical tours. So I'm starting small. I want to book about 25 people, and we're going to go up to Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
In your territory. So
Right.
yeah. And I'm sure you've probably been to Plymouth, and I've been to Plymouth, but it's been a long time ago. Have you ever seen the monument to our forefathers?
Yeah, we did Plymouth a couple times. Elementary school, probably. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's funny, if you ask people if they've ever heard of Monument to Our Forefathers, it's huge. It is enormous. And people are like, no, I've never heard of that. I have no idea. So,
What?
I know. I'm going to be honest. I hadn't heard of it till a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Very
I was
cool. So that's going to be a stop on your tour, hopefully.
oh, yeah, definitely. We're going to start in Boston. We're not going to see anything in Boston because that'll be another tour for another day because there's so much to see in Boston. But we're going to start there, and we're going to take a little coach van, whatever you want to call it, down the coast, stop at John Adams' house, and then get to Plymouth, see all the things in Plymouth that there are to see. There's lots of museums. I'm kind of targeting homeschool families, but I'm not limiting it to homeschool families. But there's some, kids' activities there. And then we're going to do a cemetery tour because that's kind of my thing these days. And go out in the bay and do an ice cream cruise. So everybody gets to go have ice cream in the afternoon. And of course, we're going to do a ghost tour. Plymouth has ghost tours.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a ghost tour and really just immerse them in the what really happened when these people came over, talking about the Mayflower Compact.
Yeah.
And understanding, what really happened there and its significance on, I also teach classes on the Constitution and, the Declaration of Independence. The month of July, I also have a Bible study group that I do on Sunday nights. And this Sunday,
Do you sleep?
Yeah, too much. But we're going to be talking about the Declaration of Independence and its, the Bible's influence on the Declaration of Independence. Then we're going to move in the following week on the Mayflower Compact and the Bible's influence on it. And then the Magna Carta and the Bible's influence on that. So that's kind of that. And we're also I want people to understand the significance that these three documents in particular played in shaping our Constitution. Because, our Constitution gets beat up every day. And people, it's because they don't really understand it. When I sit down and talk to people about what our Constitution really is and why it's important. And if you go back to Plymouth, it was one of the first places where we tried the idea of socialism. Yeah. And it didn't work.
Right.
It failed. It failed miserably. And, when we go back and look at these things and say, okay, we've tried this before in our country, and here's why it didn't work. And so I want people to really understand not just what happened there, but why it's significant to what's happening today and to be able to make those connections.
Absolutely. So where can we find you and follow along and stay up to date in everything that you've got going on?
Well, the one place that's primarily got all of my information is if you go to, it's called thefifthprinciple.coop.
Okay.
The fifth principle it's a learning cooperative, and everything we do there is all about historical education. And then my podcast is called Flashback to a Fabulous Future, because we're hoping to flash back and look at historical events and learn from them and say, this is how we can move forward in a healthy and productive way, learning from the past.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to include all the links to all of the things in the episode show notes so people can follow along and they can connect with you and what you're doing and take your tours when you're ready.
Yes, I know.
And I hope that you will come back and chat with us again.
Yes. Well, you can see I have so much to say.
So many good stories. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your support is to rate or review us on whatever platform you're listening. And if this episode left you feeling like you just had to be there, reach out to Kelly to start planning an adventure of your own. Don't forget to follow us at HadToBeThere203 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And visit our website, www.hadtobethere.net. Until next time, get out there and make your own Had to Be There memories.